May God deeply bless your day and your entire week as you join us for this journey. So I want you to imagine pulling off, like, the greatest, most impossible military victory in history.
Oh, an absolute total triumph.
Right. The impenetrable walls of a fortress city have literally collapsed in front of your eyes. Your people are riding this unimaginable high.
They feel completely invincible.
Exactly. But then just days later, your entire army is running for their lives, just absolutely routed by a tiny, insignificant village.
It's a massive reality check.
It really is. So today, we're unpacking a historical whiplash so severe, it broke the courage of an entire nation. Our mission on this deep dive is to figure out how a towering triumph turns into a devastating failure literally overnight.
We're stepping into the incredibly complex narrative of Joshua chapter 7 here.
Yeah, and we're exploring ancient ideas of community responsibility, the enduring psychology of temptation, and the crushing cost of buried secrets.
Because it's a dramatic reversal that really forces us to look past just surface-level military tactics. I mean, when a modern army suffers a sudden defeat, we analyze logistics, right?
Like supply lines, flanking maneuvers, that sort of thing.
Exactly. But to understand what happens to Israel immediately following the miracle at Jericho, we have to recognize that the physical battlefield was entirely dictated by their internal spiritual reality.
So what worked flawlessly one day, guaranteed total disaster the next?
Precisely.
Well, we need to set the geographical and historical scene for you to really feel this shift. The Israelites have just experienced Jericho. It was unprecedented.
And their next target is a place called Ai.
Right, which historically is associated with a site called Khirbet et Tel, located east of Bethel. And the name Ai itself translates to ruin.
Which is pretty ominous.
Yeah, quite the foreshadowing. So Jericho is down in the Jordan Valley, basically below sea level. But Ai is up in the central hill country.
Meaning any attack requires a really steep, grueling uphill march.
Yeah. And Joshua does the standard military thing. He sends spies up the mountain to scout this target.
Which actually initiates the subtle beginning of their downfall.
How so?
Well, the spies make that climb, they look at Ai, and they return to Joshua with a deeply arrogant assessment. They report back, and I quote, "Don't fatigue the whole army. Just send 2,000 or 3,000 men. The enemies are few."
Wow. That's pretty confident.
Highly confident. On a purely tactical level, suggesting you only send a fraction of your forces on an uphill assault against a fortified, elevated position is incredibly optimistic.
I mean, it borders on total dismissal of the enemy.
It really does.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. This is like a sports team winning the Super Bowl, and the next week they don't even bother practicing because they're playing like a minor league team.
That's a great way to look at it.
But wait, I have to push back here. Joshua's a great leader. He's meticulous. Why didn't he ask for divine direction before attacking Ai like he did with Jericho?
Well, because success often breeds a really dangerous kind of amnesia. The sources highlight a stark intentional contrast between the espionage at Jericho in Chapter 2 and the espionage here at Ai in Chapter 7.
Okay, what's the difference?
At Jericho, everything was anchored in divine promises. But here, Joshua and the spies abandoned that framework entirely. There is no record of Joshua seeking divine direction before marching on Ai.
Not at all.
None. Instead, they rely entirely on human military estimation. This represents the beginning of a disastrous, what the sources call a Canaanization of Israel's mindset.
Canaanization, meaning they're acting like the Canaanite.
Exactly. They are adopting the behaviors and the self-reliance of the surrounding nations that they were specifically supposed to be distinct from.
So they swap divine guidance for human hubris. And the geographical reality you mentioned catches up with them immediately.
Very quickly.
Joshua sends the 3,000 men, and the men of Ai just absolutely crush them. It's a complete rout.
A total disaster.
Yeah. The defenders of Ai kill 36 Israelites, chase the fleeing army from the city gates all the way to the local quarries, a place called Shebarim, and strike them down mercilessly on the steep descent back toward the valley.
And the psychological fallout from that retreat is staggering.
They can imagine.
I mean, back at Jericho, the reputation of Israel was so terrifying that the Canaanites' hearts had melted in fear. That's the phrasing used.
Right.
But now, after one skirmish with a much smaller city, that terror reverses completely. The text records that the heart of the Israelites melted and became like water.
Oh, wow. So their immense courage wasn't actually a permanent trait.
No, it was entirely dependent on their alignment with their divine mission. The moment they stepped out of that alignment and relied on their own strength, Their confidence just evaporated.
And that collapse in confidence completely undoes Joshua. I mean, the man who was just commanding armies is now on the ground in total crisis mode.
Yeah, he's devastated.
He tears his clothes, falls face down before the ark of the Lord, and just stays there in the dirt until evening. The elders of Israel do the same thing, throwing dust on their heads.
And these aren't just expressions of sadness. These are extreme, ancient physical demonstrations of utter mourning and national catastrophe.
Joshua is essentially grieving the death of the nation.
He genuinely believes the grand promise has been revoked. In his prayer, he essentially accuses God of setting them up for failure.
Yeah, he asks why they were brought across the Jordan River just to be destroyed.
Right. He is looking strictly at the physical metrics, the lost battle, the 36 dead soldiers, the vulnerability of their camp, and he's terrified the Canaanites will surround them and wipe their name from the earth.
But God's response is the ultimate wake-up call. It's incredibly blunt.
Very blunt.
He basically tells Joshua, get up. Why are you on your face? It's a complete redirection. God pulls Joshua's attention away from the external threat of the Canaanites and forces him to look at the internal contamination of his own camp.
And he reveals the true issue.
Yeah. God tells him bluntly, Israel has sinned. They broke the covenant. They took the devoted things, the spoils from Jericho that were condemned to destruction or meant for the divine treasury. They stole them, they lied about it, and they hid them among their own belongings.
Notice the specific pronoun used in that divine indictment, though. God doesn't say, one of your soldiers has sinned.
Right.
He says, Israel has sinned. And to underscore this, the narrative provides the longest genealogy in the entire book of Joshua.
Tracing 5 generations, right?
Yes. Achan, son of Carmi, son of Zabdi, son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah. It explicitly links the individual perpetrator to his family, his clan, his tribe, and ultimately the entire nation.
See, that completely flips our modern justice system on its head. We are so fiercely individualistic today.
Oh, absolutely.
Someone commits embezzlement at work, they go to jail. The police don't arrest the guy in the cubicle next to him. The whole accounting department doesn't get fired.
Right, that would seem absurd to us.
So why is God treating Achan's individual secret theft as this massive national treason? Why is an entire nation taking a catastrophic hit for one man's secret greed?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to grasp the ancient concept of corporate solidarity.
Corporate solidarity. Okay, explain that for us.
In the ancient Near East, the community wasn't viewed as a collection of autonomous individuals. It was a single living organism.
Oh, interesting.
Think of it like this. If you have a severe infection in your appendix, your whole body runs a fever. The body doesn't say, oh, that's just an appendix problem. The rest of us are fine.
Oh, that makes so much sense. So the protection and success of the whole nation of Israel were completely conditional on their collective obedience.
Exactly. While Achan was the perpetrator, Israel is treated as a community responsible for the presence of sin in its midst.
So those devoted things from Jericho weren't just standard military loot. They were highly contagious in a spiritual sense.
Highly contagious. They were the first fruits of the conquest, belonging entirely to the divine treasury.
So by taking them, Achan essentially brought the ruin of Jericho right into the heart of the Israelite camp.
Precisely. Israel couldn't stand before its enemies at Ai because by harboring those devoted things, Israel had internally become the enemy. They had absorbed the very corruption they were sent to judge.
Wow. And because that infection is hidden somewhere in a camp of hundreds of thousands of people, the narrative shifts, right? It goes from a military crisis to this agonizingly tense spiritual investigation.
It's a massive needle in a haystack situation.
Joshua has to find the one man responsible. And the mechanism they use to find him the next morning is just, it's absolutely grueling to imagine.
It is a process of systematic, agonizing elimination. The sources suggest this was likely done utilizing the Urim and Thummim.
What are those exactly?
They were sacred items kept in the breastpiece of the high priest, used to determine the divine will. It was likely a process of casting lots, perhaps pulling specific stones that indicated a yes or no response.
Picture the sheer psychological dread of that morning. You have the entire nation gathered. The high priest reaches into his garments. The lot is cast for the 12 tribes.
And Judah is singled out.
Right. Then the process repeats for the clans of Judah, and the Zerahites are chosen. Then it narrows to the families, and the family of Zabdi is pulled forward.
Getting closer and closer.
Until finally it comes down to a man-by-man selection. I mean, for hours, Achan stood in that crowd, watching the circle close around him, knowing exactly what was buried under his tent, just waiting for the inevitable moment when the lot would point directly at him.
It's terrifying. And when that moment finally arrives, the confrontation actually defies our expectations of military discipline.
Yeah, because 36 soldiers are dead because of Achan's actions.
Yeah.
But Joshua doesn't scream at him.
No, he doesn't.
He says, "My son, give glory to the Lord, God of Israel, and render praise to him. Tell me what you have done. Do not hide it from me."
It's remarkably measured.
It really is. It sounds surprisingly gentle for a man facing national treason.
Well, it does to modern ears, but the study notes explain this was a highly formal, ancient legal mechanism.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the phrase, give glory to the Lord, was an ancient formula for placing someone under a solemn oath. By commanding Achan to confess, Joshua is demanding that he align the truth with God's honor.
So it's kind of the cultural equivalent of putting your hand on a Bible in a courtroom and swearing to tell the whole truth.
Exactly. Achan is being commanded to validate the absolute justice of the divine process that just caught him.
And under the weight of that oath, Achan finally breaks. He lays out exactly what he took: a beautiful Babylonian garment, 200 shekels of silver, and a 50-shekel wedge of gold.
And in the ancient world, this wasn't just pocket change.
No, this was an astronomical fortune. The sources tonight, we were talking about the equivalent of what an average laborer might earn in an entire lifetime, just sitting there in the ruins of Jericho.
The economic pull of that loot was massive. But pay close attention to the exact words Achan uses to describe his downfall. He says, I saw them, I coveted them, I took them, and I hid them in the earth inside my tent.
Saw, coveted, took, and hid.
Yes. This sequence is a fascinating psychological pattern. It's a direct parallel to the very first human failure in the Garden of Eden.
Oh, wow. Eve saw the fruit was good, she coveted it, for wisdom she took it, and then she and Adam hid.
Exactly the same sequence.
Here's where it gets really interesting for you listening, because the anatomy of temptation hasn't changed in thousands of years. It almost always starts with a lingering look, right?
It always starts with just looking.
And think about how this plays out in modern life. You see what someone else has. Maybe you're doom scrolling through incredible vacation photos or looking at someone's massive house, and instead of moving on, you let the thought settle. I saw.
Right, the visual trigger.
Then the desire takes root. I covet it. You start rationalizing why you deserve it too. Then a line is crossed. I took. And finally, the crushing shame and the cover-up. I hid. It's just this universal human pattern.
And we constantly delude ourselves into believing we can manage the hiding phase perfectly.
We always think we can get away with it.
Always. Achan dug a hole in the dirt floor of his tent, buried a lifetime of wealth, smoothed the dirt over, and probably went to sleep thinking he had secured his family's future forever.
Completely ignoring the blast radius of his actions.
He didn't see the impending military disaster, the loss of life, or the vulnerability of his people. He was just blinded by the silver.
And because Achan buried this secret under his tent floor, the fallout couldn't just stay with him. The secret is violently dragged into the light. The moment he confesses, Joshua sends messengers running to the tent.
They find exactly what he described.
Yeah, they dig up the earth, pull out the garment, the silver and the gold, and lay them out before the Lord. The truth is undeniable. Which brings us to the consequences. And, well, this is, without a doubt, the most difficult, unsettling part of the historical account.
The judgment is absolute and sweeping. Achan is taken to a valley outside the camp, but he doesn't go alone.
No.
He is taken with his sons, his daughters, his oxen, his donkeys, his sheep, his tent, and all of his possessions, along with the stolen items.
I have to stop us here. I mean, I understand executing Achan for treason. He knew the stakes of the Jericho conquest, he made his choice, and he triggered a military defeat.
Yeah.
But his kids, his sheep, his tent.
It's extremely jarring.
Why does his entire family and property have to be destroyed? It feels incomprehensibly extreme. It feels like a massive injustice to our modern sensibilities.
It is deeply jarring, and it really demands that we view this through the lens of ancient religious law rather than modern civil law.
Okay, walk us through that.
If this had been a normal civil crime, say, Achan stole a goat from his neighbor ancient Israelite law, specifically in the book of Deuteronomy, strictly forbade generational punishment. It explicitly states that parents should not be put to death for their children, nor children for their parents.
So why does the law seemingly get suspended here?
Because this wasn't a civil infraction. It was an act of high treason against the divine, involving devoted things. The principle of harem, or complete destruction, was a terrifying spiritual contagion. By taking what was condemned, Achan condemned himself and everything attached to him.
So it's that appendix analogy again, but on a family level.
Exactly. Furthermore, we have to look at the practical reality of ancient nomadic life. A family tent is essentially a single, shared living space.
Right, there are no private basements.
Right. To dig a hole in the floor of a shared tent deep enough to hide a large Babylonian robe, heavy silver, and a gold bar without the family noticing is virtually impossible.
So the household was almost certainly complicit in the cover-up.
Very likely. By living on top of the stolen goods, they were actively harboring the spiritual infection that was killing the nation.
They were harboring the ruin of Jericho inside their home. Joshua looks at Achan before the execution and says, "Why have you brought trouble on us? The Lord will bring trouble on you today." And there is a devastating wordplay happening in the Hebrew language right there, isn't there?
Yes, the root word for trouble is akar. This is why the location of the execution becomes known forever as the Valley of Achor.
Achan became the embodiment of trouble for Israel.
And to survive, the community had to eradicate that trouble. All of Israel participates in the execution, stoning Achan and his family, and then burning everything with fire.
The burning after stoning was a highly specific ancient method used to completely purge spiritual contamination from a space, according to the notes.
Correct. And finally, they raise a massive heap of stones over the site.
It's a brutal reality, but it forcefully connects the dots on everything we've uncovered today. I mean, we started with an army that thought they had outgrown the need for divine strategy, trusting their own arrogant scouting report at AI.
Which resulted in 36 casualties.
Yeah, but the root cause wasn't bad tactics. It was a single man's secret covetousness in a dark tent, proving that our private compromises never actually stay private. The blast radius always hits the people around us.
And that heap of stones raised in the Valley of Achor remained there as a permanent geographical marker. Every Israelite who walked past it in the future would be reminded of the heavy cost of hidden sin and the reality of corporate responsibility.
Which leaves us with a really powerful thought for you to carry into your week. Earlier in this historical account, the Israelites built a beautiful monument of stones at the Jordan River. That monument was designed to help them remember a miracle, to remember God's deliverance.
A monument of victory.
Exactly. But here, in the Valley of Achor, they build a totally different monument of stones. They build it to remember a devastating moral failure. It really makes you examine the landscape of your own life. What monuments of trouble do you have?
That's a profound question.
So often, our deepest instinct is to pave over our failures, to pretend they never happened, and to bury them as fast as we can, just like Achan tried to bury the silver. But what if, instead of burying our past mistakes, acknowledging them could actually serve as a protective marker?
A reminder of where not to walk.
Yeah. What if looking honestly at our own valleys of Achor, our own past ruins, is the exact mechanism that keeps us from walking into the same devastating traps in the future?
It's something we all need to consider.
Absolutely. God blesses all of you who took the time to listen and learn with us today. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.